I draw custom homes, but my hobby is fighting tyranny. And it's not just Agenda 21, but it's everywhere we can find it. We're fighting Common Core, really big. My sister-in-law, Jenna Ray, she's the leader of the Common Core, Mothers Against Common Core in Arizona. And then also we fight, we see this federal takeover of all the organizations, of all the production that we see in the country. We see it through the healthcare is being taken over through Obamacare. Education is being taken over through Common Core. And the banks have been taken over through the bailouts, the Bush bailouts. The car companies have been bailed out, which means they're now under federal control. They're tied to the strings of the handouts. And now we're seeing the local police departments also being taken over. Through the 1033 program, they're all given free military equipment. And if you research that, almost every police department has opted into that. The free equipment was too much for them to resist. And so we've researched it. Gilbert, Queen Creek, Maricopa County, Pinal County, every single police department that we've looked into has also ordered these military equipment. Gilbert ordered 2 of them, and we fought it hard, and they really had no good excuse. The town council didn't even know about it. The police department just ordered it underneath without the mayor even knowing. So we've been fighting that as well. But most people don't realize how Agenda 21, how this federal and international agenda gets into the walls of our own home, where they can control everything that we use to build our homes and everything we use to run our homes. And that is done through the building codes, because many people believe that the building codes are there to keep us safe, you know, for our health and safety. That's why the building codes are there. And for the history of the United States, the building codes have been very minimal, all the way into the 90s. And so for the most part of our nation's history, that's been the case. You know, they've been very minor. They haven't really held up building houses and all that. But that is no longer the case. So I'll give a brief history on the codes. The codes are basically, here's my wife bringing me the code book. This is one of the 8 books that are now mandated on us to build homes. But I'll explain how we got here. Thanks, Emily. Okay, so the building codes are basically the compilation of all the good building practices that we have learned. The free market has prospered, and we've come a long ways. We've built a lot of houses, and we've learned a lot from our mistakes and our good ideas. And we've compiled them into books. And these books, people have put those good ideas into the building codes. And those building codes have been what we've used as a guide. But with all the compilation of all those codes, it's the summation of basically the prosperous country that we live in. All those good ideas coming together in one place that everybody can go to see how to build a house. But when we compile all those good ideas, is it a good idea to then mandate those as law? So we compile them all into one book, and then we go to government and we say, okay, look, I've compiled all these good ideas. Will you pass them as law? And they're like, well, I don't understand construction. They look at it, they're like, oh, it looks good to me. They pass it without reading or understanding it. The same way that the Obamacare is being passed, the same way that Common Core is being passed, they get all these practices for good medical. They take these medical books, and now they're saying Obamacare is going to be over 20,000 pages long, and they're passing it as law onto the doctors. Well, the same thing's happening through the building. I'm going to show you this. This is just a small picture of the building codes, the number of pages. Does anybody know when Agenda 21 was written? 92. So if you look at this chart, 92 is right here, number of pages. The building code is about 300 pages. And this is where we come now. This one book is up to over 900 pages, almost 1,000 pages since Agenda 21 has gone into effect. So, yeah, so that's good. And you guys have seen this. My great uncles told me stories about building. They said when they were first starting out, somebody wanted to build a house. They would call them one week, like on a weekend or Thursday or Friday. They're like, I want to build a house in your subdivision. They're like, okay, great. We'll start footings on Monday. And they would start building the house, and they would have it done in a month or two, and then call for a final inspection, pay a $6 permit fee, and be done. That's what it was like here in the valley. So, and you guys have all lived through this. I feel like I'm about less than half of your guys' age here. But this is a good movie preview that was written, that was made about exactly what we're going to talk about tonight. Oh, okay, we'll give them a second here. Okay, so in the 90s, there was multiple building codes throughout the United States. The Universal Building Code, the ICBO codes, but in 2000, all the codes were consolidated into one set of building codes. The international codes, International Residential Code. And this is one of 8 books. So this is the residential code. They have the International Plumbing Code, the International Mechanical Code, the International Energy Code, and now they have the International Green Code. And each book is at least a few hundred pages long in addition to these 1,000 pages. And you add all these books up, and it's over 4,000 pages. Okay, so there's a guy in Gilbert, his name was Gordon Heap, and we were drawing his plans, and he was in the process of trying to comply with the building codes and the zoning codes for a small structure he had in his backyard that his neighbors had no problem with, that the HOA couldn't even see, but somehow the city found out about it. Well, in the process of trying to comply, he missed a court date because he was out of town, and he was arrested in front of his wife and kids on Mother's Day and handcuffed and hauled off to jail because he wasn't complying. Most people don't go to court for the building codes because it's easier to just comply. No matter what the cost is, no matter what it is, you just comply or else your house will be bulldozed, just like they said in the movie. And that's the same threat that we're facing locally if we don't comply with every aspect of the building codes. So, what is some of the stuff that we now have to deal with in the codes? Okay, so some of it is, most of it is now having to do with energy. So the type of windows we install, they have to be the right energy rating. You have to get manual J calculations. You now have to size your AC unit by a mechanical engineer. So you take your plans to a mechanical engineer and they do calcs on the type of insulation you have, the type of windows you have, and then they size your AC unit. And it's not to make sure your AC unit's big enough, but to make sure it's not too big. So to make sure it's small enough, not too big to ruin the environment. Fire sprinklers. In Gilbert, they had a rule: no flagpoles over 20 feet, drains and window wells, carbon monoxide detectors. These carbon monoxide detectors have sensors on them. And they have to go in every bedroom. They're the wireless sensor detectors. Air infiltration designs, they make you do a system where you to build a house, they make you do a blower door test. They hook up a fan to your front door, seal everything, and then blow air into your house, and then it has to only leak so much air. And so you have to pay for that calculation, the certification. There's another $1,000 right there. Air duct leakage tests. Now your light bulbs all have to be energy efficient. And if you don't have the right type of light bulbs installed in your house, 75% of them in the 2012 code have to be energy efficient. So if you're building your house, you don't have the right type of light bulbs, you do not have the right to live in your house until you switch them out. If you were to resist, you would go to court, and if you resist that, the police could haul you off to jail. And that's the power they have on every little aspect. Current homes, there's a international maintenance code to deal with those, and it's increasing as well. And so basically the international maintenance code is not quite as to the point of a new house, but that's where they have the ability to go and inspect an existing house, and if you are not up to code, they can kick you out of your house, and the same way they can keep you out of your house for a new home. So that international maintenance code is the one that is even worse than the codes that we're dealing with now. So your appliances all have to be Energy Star, the wireless, or the what do they call it? The programmable appliances. So your dishwasher, your refrigerator, your range, and all that has to be ran through what is now required is your smart meter. And so you know how people can set the temperature on their cabin before they get there and make sure it's warm when they show up. The government is now involved in controlling that. So now they will be able to read what temperature your house is set at through your appliances and through your smart meter and into what is now required, a programmable thermostat. And on and on and on. Now they require tamper-resistant. Were you going to say something, Randy?
Just wanted to ask you, based on your expertise, the bottom line, what would this add to the cost of a home?
Well, if you figure in, now it takes probably, it used to take, the name of our company is GER Drafting Service, but our slogan is House Plans in a Week. And that came back in, when did we come up with that slogan? In the 90s? Or was that early 2000? 92. House plans in a week. So we were able to draw sometimes full custom plans for a custom home in a week. Now the process takes a minimum of 3 to 4 weeks to draw the same set of plans, because now we have to do all the calculations, the electrical calcs, the mechanical, now we have to take to an engineer, the structural calculations, the soils report, the pad certification, on and on and on. All this stuff that has been proven to not be needed. And so you add in that. So a month for plans, 2 months for the permitting process, that's 3 months. Now the process to build a custom home takes about 6 months rather than 2 to 3 months. So that alone, if you add in the cost of that, permits in Gilbert for, this was a nice size house, it was about 6,000 square feet, but permits for it were $26,000 alone. And before it used to be like, I don't know, in the 90s, maybe $2,000. And now it's $26,000. So I don't know how many, how fast exponentially that's increasing. Queen Creek's about the same place. About for a 3,000 square foot house, it was $15,000, and that's before you even break ground. So you pay for that, then you pay for your plans, your engineering, your certifications. You're into it about $30,000 before you can even start building, plus the 6 months that it takes to get there. And so if people think that this is not pushing out beginner home buyers, they're not living reality, because it is pushing out many people from wanting to start a house. They'd rather just live in an apartment or a small house or a tract house, go live in a small subdivision that's being built.